Today, coming up on this week's episode,
RBC already calling for another 50 basis points interest rate cut in December.
average GTA condo prices dropped by over 23K annually in Q3.
Polyev promises to abolish federal sales tax on new homes under $1 million.
American searches for Canadian real estate rise ahead of U.S. election.
Saskatchewan gets 8% surge in September home sales driven by strong demand and record population growth.
And will the Canadian dollar continue to fall?
All this, our interview with President Donald Trump on the Canadian Real Estate Show. Let's go! Okay, Mr. TK, let's get her going. Welcome to another fucking Sunday of real estate. And man, are we excited about today's show. How did this happen?
What a show.
How did we get so lucky? I mean,
Darryl, I think about the early days of June 2020. You and I in our basements, thinking about all the creative ways that we can keep ourselves from going crazy.
Keep ourselves from, and look what happened. That didn't work out too well, did it?
Today might be the pinnacle of craziness, but at the same time,
that's what it's all
our
about.
success.
Ooh, yeah. Those are the numbers. It's all about this.
And I'm excited for today's show. Definitely excited for our guests and excited for our new format.
You know, when you are the most viewed real estate podcast in a country, you get certain liberties. And I mean, it's a meteoric rise to success, TK, but we're humble guys. Welcome to Movember, TK.
Movember. We got to support the cause, guys.
What a wonderful cause.
Men's mental health is a real thing. Clearly.
No kidding. Clearly.
The co-hosts of this show are leading by example.
That's right. Example of
showing everybody it's okay to grow a mustache and to support the cause and spread the word so that men out there don't have to suffer in silence. Welcome to Movember, Darryl.
Right mic here. Guys, it's time to subscribe to the channel. Maybe.
Why are you even watching the show if you're not subscribed to the channel?
Yeah, a lot of you are watching. That? I don't know what, it's just like, is it hard to press that button, TK? I don't know.
On your phone, it's the button that says subscribe. On the computer, it's the button that says subscribe. On your iPad, it's the button that says subscribe.
Try it. It's fun. And we would appreciate it. Check us out on Spotify, Instagram, Apple Podcast, and is there anywhere else? Did I miss anything? Whatever.
We got a page.
That's it. Have a nice day. What is happening in Movember? What can we expect? I can tell you one thing that we could not expect is sales in the Toronto condo market. Holy jumping Jesus. What is happening?
Funny that we're starting with this, because even though people say we want to go coast to coast, which we're going coast to coast, they say we don't want to keep hearing about Toronto condos. But listen,
it is the epicenter.
Majority of people are affected by Toronto condos. It's just the way it goes. Everybody bought these suckers over the last few years. Lining up in those sales centers, filling out their worksheets, going, I'm going to triple my money in 3 years because I'm just such a genius.
Yeah, it's called an assignment. Have you heard of it?
Have you heard of it? I'm going to assign the crap out of these things. I got four of them. Listen, we all fell for it. Everybody at one point thought that was easy money. I wish I had done it back in 2013 when people actually were making money. But anybody who bought 2018 or later, is got some issues that they're dealing with right now getting these things closed.
Could be.
We heard a rumor that there's been some defaults, some breaches where
very reliable source.
Maybe not. That bulk condos are being bought by investment groups of various types. So, example, Builders got 200, 300 units. They have 220 of them closed without any issues, but they got 80 left over that the buyers couldn't close on. They absorb those deposits and they chop off all 80 units to an investment fund to make it nice and smooth and easy so that that builder can close off that financing and move on to the next project. These things I think are going to happen more often. Whether it actually happened or not doesn't matter. Darryl's talked about it in the show. This is how this is a solution, right? Because remember, the builder's going to have their 20% deposit. So right away, they got 20%. They know what the carrying costs are of the debt. They know what it's going to be like in this current environment. This is just today's solutions, like November 1st, November 2024. You don't have a market right now. There is no way to sell those units. There really is not going to be a buyer who's going to line up, and you're going to spend all that time and resources setting up a sales center, trying to chop off these 80 units, or even worse, putting them on the MLS. And now you got 80 units in your building, and plus all the other investors trying to sell. It's crazy. So you go to one group and you say, hey, what kind of deal do you need to get? And we heard $800 a square foot for a reasonable location, but there's going to be
a murdering.
There's going to be a price cut, a nice big haircut for that developer, but at least he's got his 20% on the deposit side. Well, when you say murder, like, what were they sold at? 1,300, 1,400? They weren't sold at peak prices. No, so they already got $200 or $300 a square foot from the so maybe they
took a haircut building with peak pricing on costs, right? So you sold these things, you end up getting caught in this weird building time where you couldn't get anything and everything went up like crazy, right? And now nobody can fucking close on the units. It's a real mess, and like the basis of this mess and the real number in these stats, and I don't know how accurate it is, but they're saying that between new homes sitting on the market in inventory and resale condos, we're looking at 40,000 units for sale.
Yeah, condos,
which is a gigantic number.
50 months. So months of inventory, right? We're always talking about months of inventory. Now the resale condo market, I think, is only 7+
it's only
months
like
of inventory
8,000 or something.
So you're not talking about a crazy months of inventory number when you look at the resale market. But this is how stats are, right? I mean, there's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. Yeah. Because obviously the whole point that the president of Urban Nation is trying to make here is that we're not in a good position, because using the 40,000 unit as a metric and then also calculating how many units are being sold on the resale side and pre-con, right? Which in Q3, I think there was like only hundreds of them.
Yeah, a few hundred sales. It's like ridiculous. 532 or some stupid number.
532 stupid number like that. So it's like that's a super, super low number. So to clear out 40,000 units, at that
pace, holy shit,
take a really long time. And that's not to be believed or anything like that. I wouldn't say like, oh my gosh, this is what's going to happen, because so many things. 567 in Q3. So many things are going to change between now and let's say next year, right? So bottom line is, though, and this is how I look at things. I mean, you guys can say whatever you like, but what an opportunity to buy condos. Now, I'm not saying go and buy condos as investments unless they are cash flowing. I'm not saying go out and buy any condo just because of the market. No, do your research, figure out what it is. But more importantly, if you're looking at moving from a house to a condo, right? That might be a perfect opportunity. And there's a lot of my clients right now who are talking about it and thinking about it. And I'm definitely advocating that right now is a good time to move from a house to a condo. And probably most cases, a couple I was talking to yesterday, that was their situation, would be to sell first, get a long closing, first go out shopping and looking at different options that you have, understanding the markets, looking at different buildings, seeing what kind of layouts you like, figuring out price points. You're going to see a bunch of units that you like. There's going to be a bunch of units in buildings that you like, in areas that you like, and then you'll figure out price points, reverse engineer it to say, okay, this is what I can afford. This is what I need to sell my house for. If everything adds up and this is what makes sense that you want to do to change in your lifestyle, then I really believe that now is a good time to go from a house to a condo. I don't think that there's going to be too many good markets out there, because I don't think the freehold market's going to have too much steam in it. We got too many issues there, but right now it's got some steam. And I think that the condo market might get worse, but there's already a lot of options out there, and you can really put a beating on somebody if you need to get a good deal. Hey guys, if you're looking to book a call with me, check out the link below and book a 15-minute call and we can chat about real estate. Looking forward to hear from you.
That's if you need to buy, but I think, and we'll maybe talk about it a little bit later when we talk about Bank of Canada. But like, there's two schools of thought going on simultaneously right now, and one of them is that, uh, you know, uh, rates are coming down, right? And so that should help spur on the market. But also, rates are coming down. So people are thinking maybe if I don't have to buy, right? If I'm not a natural buyer, as you put it, like I'm going to fucking wait because, they're looking for some deep rate cuts.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
like the stuff that we're talking about. So I don't know where 60 units in one building are still available at this point in time. Like that sounds a little far-fetched to me because if you think about it, you had to sell 65-70% of the building, right? Prior to
These are
even
defaults.
construction. These are defaults in the same building? Is that what the
Defaults.
story
These are
was?
people who couldn't close. Yeah.
Oh, right. That's a bad sign if that's actually happening. Now, it's a good sign, I suppose, depending on the side of things you're on, that they haven't started talking about that in the marketplace because that would set off some pretty big alarm bells, I got to think.
Regardless, it's the idea that it's happening
The
that
idea.
makes sense. Everything's about emotions, everything's
Well, we
about
talked about it.
perspective and how people perceive the market right now and the sentiment. And I think that right now the sentiment is that there's gonna be more and more condos coming online, especially in these new buildings that are gonna be a deal. I'm going out on Sunday morning with a client to go look at a new building, and some of them are being offered by the builder, some of them are all being sold by investors, and I'm excited.
You
A
know
lot
what
of
I
options.
noticed? Well,
Yeah.
there's a ton of options, but what was interesting, if you dug into these condo stats on this report, is that although I guess so, sales are down, average price is down, and inventory is up in the GTA overall. But if you zoom in closer, you'll see Halton is up with average price and up with sales. And I don't remember if the inventory was down or not, but it seems like Halton, which I believe is Brampton and Halton.
Halton, no, Halton's Oakville and Milton, and
Oakville. So Oakville and Milton. Why
yeah,
the hell
Oakville's got
is
it like
that going?
because Oakville's got like nice condos for people who they got money.
Nice condos for people
Yeah,
that got money.
near
And
the
that's
water and
what's
all that kind of
moving it.
stuff. Yeah, you'll have, but
Mm,
it's like how many condos really were sold, right? So it's not like you're gonna have a huge
right.
pool of data coming in from
All
Oakville. Come on,
right. Well, so once again, TK, okay, condo market is a
condo
absolute
market sucks. The report came
disaster.
out. Prices aren't doing so
Disaster.
great. Everybody needs to be careful if they're going into the condo market and understand what they're buying.
We don't
You know,
think it's
is
getting
it at a
better
bottom?
anytime
Is it
soon.
at a bottom?
No,
Probably not.
no.
And definitely, it could be a great time to buy a condo if you're going to be selling your house too. And why do I say that? Because you're also going to be selling your home. So if your house ends up going down next year, like everything else, then you're buying and selling on the same market. And so at
Mhm.
least right now, the delta is a little bit further away, and you can actually make the jump from house to condo easier than you could in the past couple
But
of years.
but God forbid, like I'm hearing this, somebody we know bought a house on our street. And I think they made the cardinal sin, especially in this market, is what did they do, TK? They fucking bought first. Okay. And part of their story is like they're downsizing because their house is like too expensive for them right now. And I guess either something's coming down the pipe potentially, or something came down the pipe that forced their hand into finding a different living situation. And they can't sell their house now, right? And they're so what's going to happen is, they're at some point they're going to get screwed up, I would imagine, and have to screw up the marketplace where they live
Yeah.
because they're going to have to panic at some point. Because if the point of buying the new house is to, get your costs more in line, and now you're carrying two of them,
Yeah.
right? This is bad. This is bad. So
So
please, if you are looking to buy a condo or a house or anything, TK,
yeah.
sell your goddamn house
every
first.
every situation is different, Dale. I can't just blanket advice for everybody and say, because of the market's X, you should do this. It depends on the type
I
of home
can't
they
because
have,
I'm not selling.
expectations they have, financial
Don't be
capabilities,
stupid.
what they want to buy, where they want to buy, how much is each house, is it going up, is it going down? All these factors are going to be
No,
major
sell
contributors to
first.
that decision. But luckily, at Frank Leo and Associates, there's 2 programs.
Are you a real estate agent and you're looking to make a change? Anywhere in Ontario, guess what? We're hiring. Frank Leo and Associates, #1 team in the GTA for all REMAX teams, #1 team for all teams from all companies for number of units sold throughout Toronto. So if you're looking to make a change, best decision I ever made was to join Frank Leo and Associates. Go to jointeamleo.com and we can set up a call.
2.
One is the guaranteed home sale, which means that if you buy first, Frank will give you an offer in writing when the time comes for you to sell that he will guarantee and buy your home from you. So it means if he can't sell it, he'll buy it, which is incredible.
How often does that happen?
It's offered enough. It's offered enough, but thankfully we're good at what we do, so we don't actually have to buy the house as often as other people might have to if they were offering that. But bottom line is he's willing to put it in writing, where if we don't get it sold, it will be bought by him. It's a firm offer. Wow. The other one is actually a new program called the Guaranteed Buy. The Guaranteed Buy, which is neat. Frank and I developed it at lunch a couple of weeks ago because we were using it so often. We figured we might as well have this as a option for people to take part in. Is if you did buy a property and for whatever reason you can't sell your home, well, you try to go, or you did sell your home, but now you can't line up the closing dates, right? So your closing date on the sale is after the purchase and the buyers can't make it any earlier. And you go to the bank, you can't get a bridge. If you haven't sold your home, you can't get a bridge. If you've got certain issues with financing, maybe no job or whatever type of income you have or some other issues, you might be a cash buyer, but you need a bridge. Bank's not going to give it to you. You want to go to a private lender? Yeah, good luck. 2% fees, 12% interest, crazy, right? You don't want to get involved with those guys. So we would actually buy the house for the client. So we'll just buy the house for them. So let's say you sold let's say you got $1 million home, you're moving into $1 million condo. You bought the condo already. You can't sell your $1 million home, no problem. We'll buy that $1 million condo for you until your home sells and put it in your name. So you own the home and we're holding a mortgage at prime plus 2%, no fees. Or if you get a closing date that's after your purchase, but you can't get a bridge, same thing. We'll buy it for you as a bridge until your other home closes. It's all temporary financing. We're not trying to go into the mortgage market here, but it's a service we offer our clients. And I think it's pretty cool to avoid things like that.
Great idea.
What's going on with your clients? And there's no limit to this.
No, it's a great idea.
There's all these limitations and stuff like that. But on the buy side, no, you got the equity and all the things moving to it. And you want to go and buy a luxury property, we can make it work.
That is an interesting program. Yeah, I don't know if you remember back in the day, those landlord guys. I was really trying to steer that thing towards those bridges because I saw definitely coming down the pipe a glaring need for this, especially when you got dummies that friggin' sell after they bought, especially in a down market.
It's not everybody's a dummy. There's lots of people who that needs to happen because they're very specific on what they're looking to buy for. They're trying to buy something really unique.
Oh, this is the only time this house will ever come up, and I have to have it.
Exactly, it's emotional. But they've been in the same house for 30 years, and they don't want to move until they know where they're going.
Yeah, well, unless you have to, don't be a dummy. Sell your place first, then figure it out. Rent a place for a couple months if you have to. Go live somewhere on a couch. Do whatever you have to do. Don't get caught in the trap where you're counting on a specific amount so you can afford the thing you just bought and you don't get it, because that sucks. And yes, of course, TK, every situation is different and blah, blah, blah. But if you can wait, don't be dumb. Unless somebody, I guess, comes by and offers you an offer you can't refuse. But that's not happening now, is it?
Anyways, Darryl, you've never had to actually guide someone during that process. There's plenty of people who will buy first. It's just the way it is. No matter how much you talk to them about it, you're never going to convince someone, hey, just put your house on the market for sale. It's all going to work out. Don't worry.
Well, if I convince one person today, TK, I've done my job. Okay. Now, speaking of opportunities and people potentially buy. Well, I mean, we're almost at the time. I mean, and talk about condo market. Like, if anybody knows the condo market, this is the guy.
This is the guy.
because of this guy potentially being the guy again, we have a whole segment of people at the very least searching from the USA to, what can I buy something in Canada, I guess is the search, or what's for sale in Canada.
Remember when Trump almost got elected back?
If Trump's elected, I'm moving to Canada.
Yeah, that's all it was, And so now why are people right now searching Canadian real estate from the US right before the election again? I don't know. Maybe it's the same people who don't want Trump. Maybe it's the other, Kamala Harris. I don't know. Do you know what? Who cares about this? Not me. No. Because it's not that easy.
Don't care about this?
Americans are just like, well, I'll just move to Canada then. All right, here I go up there, settle my roots and open my business. Here we go. I'm telling you right now, it ain't that easy just to come up to Canada and live.
Well,
so you can't just be like, I'm a Canadian now because I'm from Canada Senior, known as USA.
But can they can they even buy here, or is it like part of that foreign buyer ban?
There's a foreign buyer
can't even buy anything.
Yeah, but it's like maybe they're searching for a place to rent because they want to move here. But regardless, they can't move here.
Rent.
Sure.
Rent.
Regardless.
Good call.
Americans
TK.
don't know Canadian policy. So
no.
Do I expect a flood of Americans to come across the border waving American flags, driving pickup trucks, drinking soda? No.
Like what about if they're not drinking soda, TK? Anyways, TK, I don't know what I imagine that there will be a gigantic effect on our country if this man becomes president again in a few days. But
let's find out.
We can't wait directly anymore. We only have him for a short amount of time. Everybody,
President Trump, come on! Thank you for coming on the show. Welcome to the Canadian Real Estate Show.
Welcome.
I am happy as hell to be here with you on the Canadian Real Estate Show. I want to make sure that I hit this huge podcast right after Joe Rogan and just before the election. Thank you for being brave enough to have me on the most viewed Canadian real estate podcast on earth. I would like to tell you thank you very much for giving me a platform in Canada large enough to send a message to your current prime minister to go and fuck himself, which I'm sure he will find pleasurable.
President Trump, I just wanted to ask you something that Canadians right now are all talking about, and it's something that's on our minds. It's something that we're all, terribly afraid of. How many tariffs are you going to impose on Canadian exports? And how do you intend on building the relationship that the U.S. currently has with Canada going forward?
I am absolutely going to tariff the crap out of Canada. I'm going to tariff your lumber. I'm going to tariff your cars, and I'm tariff your beer, and I'm going to tariff the shit out of your precious oil. I love tariffs, TK.
Mr. Trump, I was wondering, we've had some interesting political action up here as well in Canada with our own elections. And if you had the chance to be the prime minister for a day, what's the first thing that you would do?
Darryl, that is a fantastic question. You are a fantastic guy. If I were the Canadian Prime Minister for one day, I would make all of the beautiful oil and, quite frankly, terrific natural resources. I would make all of the Canadian citizens partners in a company called Canada Resources. We will be rich. Quite frankly, I love the Canadian Real Estate Show. It's the best Canadian real estate show. Thank you, Darryl, and thank you, TK, for having me on. I wish you luck. You're doing a great job. You are truly doing God's work. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Hit the like button, make a comment, and for heaven's sake, ring the damn bell. Don't forget to check them out on Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and the Clips channel on YouTube. Join the Canadian Real Estate Show Army. These guys are the real deal. Whatever you do, do not watch the Tom Story Show.
Thank you, President Trump, for joining us today. That was
our honor.
Unbelievable honor. And wow, I don't even know what to say, TK.
Darryl, like I said, we're from the basements of the COVID podcast to sometimes having our prime minister call in to the show, and now having milestone. Most likely the future U.S. President,
leader of the free world,
and really he chose one Canadian podcast, not just real estate pod. He chose one Canadian podcast to attend and participate in, and I'm not really surprised that he chose us.
Well, and he's pretty specific about who he thought people shouldn't be watching right now.
That's his opinion. I mean, I'm not here to.
It's his opinion, and I mean, I don't know if he's got the right opinion, but when it comes to that show, I think he's bang on. Regardless, TK, I intimated at it earlier in the show. It seems that RBC now is already calling for another 50 basis point interest rate cut in December, and so I mean, I feel like it just happened last week that we got a 50 BIP cut, right? Was it last week? The week before? We're 6 weeks away now from another rate cut, and they're already calling for another half a point, another emergency rate cut, right?
If that happens, I mean, the economy that we are in, if there's another 50 basis point rate cut, I mean, I don't know what
economy
to say.
are we in?
I don't think we're hoping for that, to be honest with you. I don't think we're hoping for another 50 bips rate cut, because that means that this economy is much worse than we thought. But there's a lot of things that are at play right now, and I think that there's going to be people who are hopeful. Also, you got to look at what RBC does, right? RBC released these forecasts, and part of their agenda is, hey, how to drive up more spending, more borrowing, more buying housing, all that kind of stuff. So they want to put out a report that people are going to read and say, hey, if that 50 basis points comes, then me borrowing this money right now at a variable rate ain't going to be so bad, right? And that's really something that you always have to just sort of look at. Why are they releasing that report, and what's their angle?
Well, I mean, if you were shopping for a house 2 weeks ago, right? And now all of a sudden you get a half a point makes a difference. I mean, a quarter point, they all make a little difference, but like we're talking a half a point on top of 3/4 points already. Is that what it is? Is my memory serving me correctly? I think that's right. And then another half a point, like within a 2-month period, you're really looking way better. And your affordability, I don't know, is your affordability changing as prices come down?
As long as prices are coming down, right? Which they seem to be on that trajectory, but you never know. I mean, people could get stupid again and start buying, but definitely inflation's coming down. And so they're talking about a lot of disinflationary pressures. They're talking about an unemployment rate rising to 7%. They're
really
talking about 20%. The GDP growth of only 1.3%, in 2025, with a population growth of, in excess of 1%. So we're really talking about, stagnating economy in 2025 compared to where we've seen it in the past. And so, yeah, maybe there are going to, drop rates again. I think a 50 basis point cut would be extreme. I think that they're going to be watching things like the Canadian dollar, which we'll talk about. I think that they're going to be looking at what happens with the election. I think they're going to be looking at a lot of things like that too. It's not just going to be so simple as far as trying to give the economy a soft landing. I think already the economy is slowing down. I'm noticing it, and I'm just one person. So I imagine with all those analysts that they've got there at the big Bank of Canada, they got it figured out now that people aren't spending the kind of money that they were before.
How do you notice it? You said you noticed that it's slowing down, because if we go back 2 weeks, you had like the busiest week of all time. Then we go last week and you're like, things are kind of slow again. And now you're like, I can see that the economy's slow. So
I can see that the economy's slow. I mean, I'm asking anybody I talk to who's got businesses, I'm always asking them what's going on. I mean, I told you about the furniture guy. Like that's a huge indicator right there.
We talk about it all the time.
This week I talked to somebody who's in the restaurant business who's really struggling. There's a lot of things out there that are just small little data points that you collect, when you're talking to people about their financial matters, right? And it's just like, wow, like these people are really struck, and like the people who are struggling, like I'm assuming that they're not going out for dinner, and I'm assuming that they're not booking a vacation, and I assume that they're not going to be going out there shopping and buying their kids all the things that they need to do. Like times are tough, right? So in that sense, my circle and the people that I see and what I notice is that there's just less money coming out of people's bank accounts lately.
Yeah. You see it in things like, so I have, I know some people that are pretty decent sized party planners in the city, pretty big company.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good.
And so, and I have some friends with a decent amount of wealth, and you just see like bar mitzvahs, they went from being, and don't get me wrong, there's still some crazy ones, but they went from being these like elaborate weddings, basically, right? That cost people $80,000-$100,000 to like luncheons now, right? Yeah. Where you're not having a band, and maybe you're not having a party planner even, or it's like that whole thing is very different right now, like the party kind of scene.
Can you do like a Jewish accent and have some sort of little bit on that? Can you do that for us?
How many different Jewish accents really are there?
Well,
TK,
like your impression
what's Jewish? This is extraordinarily racist. TK.
Your impression. Give us your rendition of a.
You put me on the spot, and I haven't had a chance to plan. And honestly, like I've done so many, like I get like the whiny Jewish mother accent. That's kind of New York kind of style of Jewish, right?
I'm sure it exists. I'm sure it's
It
out there.
exists. Anyways, TK, I don't want to
Sorry.
put it on. I
Sorry,
don't
Sorry to put you
now.
on the
Now I
spot.
lost my train of thought. What the hell was
Well,
I
okay.
talking about?
The bar mitzvahs are getting
The bar
smaller.
mitzvahs
The
are getting
economy's starting
smaller.
to slow down.
Well, but
RBC's saying we need to cut the rates another 50 basis points in December. Jeez.
Well, but I still see people going out for dinners, although I see restaurants closing earlier and trying to push people out. I still see people going to, like, we went to apple picking and the place was like lined up out the door down the street and crazy. And it's like,
well, they're not dead. Like, they're still alive.
well, but there's still so many people is the point, and they still need stuff to do, and so many of them still have money. Like if you use the Yorkdale meter, TK, the Yorkdale meter is
the 401
off the
drive-by
charts.
But I mean, those people park there just for free parking. They probably get carpool downtown or something like that.
TK, if you go in, okay, everybody's walking around with bags and drinks and ice creams and
old bags that they
old bags. They're just going to look.
They're just holding
like
their
they're
laundry.
shopping.
They got to go to the dry cleaners.
I'm
they're
unemployed
going to the laundromat because they don't even have laundry at home. See,
Jesus. Well, that's not good. I don't think that's true, though. I think that there is still a ton of money chasing whatever goods there are out in the marketplace right now. And I'm not saying that the economy is not bad, because I see firsthand people that I never would have thought that are tightening up or actually like scared are tightening up and really scared. And even the person I was talking about before, like they downsized. These are people that, they've been doing well ever since, they were born, right? They live in a big, beautiful house, but they're like, oh boy, like I can't afford the renewal, right? And so timing of these rate cuts, like if you had to renew in the last year and a half, like
the person who renewed last year at 6%,
right,
is so mad that they're like, who? Yeah. Like if they were reading the comments, they were like, oh my God, rates are going to continue to go up. Inflation's going to spiral out of control.
Yeah.
I better renew at 6%. It's going to be a lot better than 8%. I wish I had renewed at 3%.
Yeah.
No.
Why did I do 5 years? Oh my God.
Yeah. Guaranteed 100%.
But
that's just the way life goes, guys. First of all, anybody who says they know where rates are going to go, anybody who says they know where inflation is going to go, anybody who says that they know the real estate market's going to go, the stock market's going to go, immediately start tuning them out.
Immediately. And especially
as soon as somebody starts telling me something like that, I'm just like, oh, okay, you, my friend, are not as informed as you think you are.
But people, like, it's such a broad stroke that they use. It's so it's all encompassing, right? And what we'll see is that, and we've talked about it, and everybody's talked about it. This is not a secret. Like, it's so segmented, this market, right? And where one place is going to absolute shit, we'll find out. We should go live, TK. Maybe you'd like to introduce him, but we should go live and see what's going on across the country, because what we're going to see is there are pockets that certainly are doing gangbusters right now, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, let's check in with them. I mean, you and I don't get out of the GTA too often, so we want to make sure we keep everybody happy. But let's go live to Kip Conahan right now in Saskatchewan. Kip, how are you? Kip Conahan here, coming live from Saskatchewan, where sales are up 8% in the month of September. Darryl and TK, you guys wouldn't believe this. In all of Saskatchewan, they sold 1,398 homes. 1,000. That's it? Holy Christ. What's the prices like over there? $343,000 average price. Why isn't everybody moving to Saskatchewan? Holy Christ. Oh, man. I gotta go, guys. Remember, if it ain't on the news, it probably ain't true. Thanks, Kip.
Welcome back,
he's doing
everybody.
Such a great job.
That Kip guy's on fire.
People say good help is hard to find, hey?
That's
Not on the Canadian Real Estate Show, that's for sure.
That guy's exciting and excited. But I mean, he should be, because if you go back, we question, why the fuck is Saskatchewan not booming? Like, I think back when we were talking to that bald prairie guy, like, average price was $280,000 or something there.
Whatever it was cheap. It was affordable. It was newer. It was bigger lots. Right? It's like, guys, get on the train and head out to Saskatchewan and start your new life. What are you thinking?
How long a train ride is that?
I don't know. It's going to be at least 24 hours, days? Probably. Okay. I'm not sure, but whatever it is, it's worth it.
If you want to work on a farm, I don't know what you do in the winter.
No, they got other jobs, and you can work from other home. Jobs. There's so many. Listen, how many people are working from home? And then they're like, "Oh, my kids' school." Listen, take the kids, take your husband and wife, and move to Saskatchewan. Just do it.
It's so
buy something
smart.
for $400,000. All your complaints are going to be gone. And you can go on vacations more every year. During the winter time, you could probably take time off because you won't be working so hard. Like,
can you get a flight anywhere from Saskatchewan? Can you fly from there?
You probably have to walk to Calgary before you can fly anywhere.
That makes sense.
But regardless, you're in an amazing opportunity financially because of the cost of living there is so much cheaper.
Right.
So we're offering solutions here on the Canadian Real Estate Show.
I think we are. And that's what we're here
solutions. This is what people need to do.
Saskatchewan has all of the ingredients for a wonderful recipe if you don't care that you're living in Saskatchewan, right?
Tell people you live in Alberta. They won't know the difference.
They won't know the difference. It's just as cold. Except, I mean, there's no oil in Saskatchewan. Is there oil in Saskatchewan? I should double check that.
Saskatchewan's got it all. Saskatchewan's
got it all.
I'm sure they do, but regardless if they do or don't, people will believe you if you say you live in Alberta. When you go on vacation and they say, "Hey, where are you from?" Just say Toronto.
And they still won't really understand where you're from.
No, they'll know. They'll say Toronto. Okay, good.
Oh, yeah, the Raptors.
If they say, "Well, great, what's the weather like?" Well, I moved a little bit outside Toronto. Think about it. One day Saskatchewan's going to be part of the GTA.
At this pace, it should be. We'll get a subway out there pretty quickly.
Of the GTA over the last 20 years at that rate, Saskatchewan in the next 40 years will be part of the GTA.
It only makes sense.
There'll be a tunnel.
It only makes sense. A tunnel. Yeah, subway. Maybe LRT. Those seem to be moving way quicker than underground subways.
Hopefully it's like a teleportation device. But regardless, we got some options there. Okay, so thanks, Kip.
Thank you, Kip.
Always good, and looking forward to your next week's segment.
Yes.
So why don't we chat about what everyone was talking about this week? It was on the news. It was big, hyped up announcements, promises from the other guy.
Paulie Everett
elected. Yep. Pierre. He's out there basically saying, "Hey guys, we're trying to create more housing. Justin's government hasn't created any more housing." And he goes on and on and on. But bottom line is what he wants to do is he wants to cut the federal portion of the HST, which is 8%, out of the cost of a new construction home under $1 million. So for an $800,000 home, it would be a $40,000 reduction, which is only 5%. Okay, so it's 5%, not 8%. 8% is provincial. So that means that the savings should be passed on to the buyers. Now, we had a guy on our show who talked about...
Is that what that means? Is that what's going to happen? Because in my head, I'm sitting here going, the builders are going to raise the price.
It's builders $40,000 savings on their taxes. But we did have a coalition of builders who said if they started to see changes through taxation on new homes, that every dollar it was decreased, they would reduce it by the same.
I'm one of them.
They keep their promise. You're one of them. You're part
of
one
of them. I'm
on. You're on the list.
Thing.
So Darryl,
you should see what they produced. Actually,
I know the Taxopoly game.
Yeah, did you see that thing?
I saw moments of it. Yeah,
it's
kind of cool, right? So hopefully that's all part of it.
Funny.
I mean, listen, do I think Poilievre is going to live up to this promise if he's elected? Yes, I do. It's not based on anything that's too concrete, but based on changes that I've seen in the past when somebody runs on a particular political campaign, and something as simple as this, like this would be a major thing that is really going to not to say he wouldn't win already, but it's going to be a major part of his campaign now. I think that he'll stand by it. And so if he's elected next year, then he'll be the one to ensure that this gets passed, and they'll figure out how to make the money afterwards. Like, come on, figure out how to get the money back afterwards. Get the housing done, Then let's see how many more property taxes you create. Let's see how much the economy
development charges. I mean, look, now, can you imagine how much they're collecting right now? Nobody's doing anything, right?
Zero.
Zero. So if this just spurs on some people doing something, that's additional revenue.
That's municipal, municipal governments, right?
Oh, federal. But they'll matter. They just ask money.
They'll ask for less money from the federal government, right? Which is basically, I don't know how much more you want to talk about this, but like I said, I do believe that's something that he's going to be able to live by. Now, he was asked on the radio, I was listening to an interview on him on the radio, and they said, well, why don't you have it for properties over $1 million? Or why don't you have it so that properties on the first $1 million are not subject to the tax, but anything over and above would be subject? And his answer was pretty politically, but it was very politician-like, but it was, we will consider that.
We will consider that. Well, it's actually not a bad idea. It doesn't change anything for him. Like, it's the same thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Does it make a difference?
One, because they were saying, well, Toronto and Vancouver would benefit from this. But condos, there's going to be a ton of condos under $1 million still that'll benefit from this. It'll also give builders incentives. So it'll be like $9.99, right? And then, like your upgrades are extra. And they're like, well, what are the upgrades? It's like windows.
Everything. You want a roof on this bad
stairs. Yeah. But the house is $9.99. And that's what the agreement of purchase and sale is going to say. Right?
That's interesting. That's a good take on that. Listen, we're thinking in Toronto, right, where everything costs 1.6. But when you're in Saskatchewan, this thing makes a difference, doesn't it?
I don't think it's easy to build in Saskatchewan. I'm pretty sure that like not much gets built in Saskatchewan, to be honest with you. It's crazy how the prices aren't skyrocketing, knowing that, but no one's probably moving there, and that's part of the equation. But like, think about
getting record
what's
growth.
The cheapest. So what's the cheapest price per square foot somebody can build for right now? The most basic of houses.
Houses?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. Well,
200?
like a townhouse, yeah. They're probably guys doing under $200 a foot for hard costs, yeah.
Okay.
Under.
So 2,000 square foot home is $400,000, Darryl. It's more than the average price in Saskatchewan.
That's right.
So they got to get the land for free.
Well,
there can't be any soft costs involved.
But you're using like a 2-story building and comparing it to an average that's probably all bungalows and little farmhouses and like wartime kind of stuff, right?
Okay.
All tiny little shit.
Touche, my comrade.
Right?
Regardless, there's not a lot of money to be made.
Square foot house. He's still fucking too high. This is the problem. Yeah. This is the thing we've talked about in the past, is like sometimes even if you get the land for free and a bunch of incentives, it just doesn't make any sense, because
that's most of the sites in Toronto right now.
Well, yeah. Well, you want to talk about crazy with sites in Toronto right now.
Tell me.
So I was talking to somebody about a couple of my properties, and he was saying, oh, these are such great properties, Darryl. These are unbelievable. You should see the shit that we're looking at right now. Did you know, he said, Darryl, did you know there's 200 zoned sites for sale right now in Toronto? I guess it's probably GTA. 200 zoned sites. Nobody wants to buy a zoned site, and of course they don't, right? Zoned sites are funny because it's either
people want to buy zoned sites at the right price, Darryl.
No. Normally, when you're buying a zoned site, you've got to be ready to launch, because that's the next thing to do.
But you can sell a site. There are examples of some launches doing well right now. If you release it at the right number, people will buy it. It's just the number is so much lower than it was 2 years ago that the sellers can't sell it for that much.
Did you see there was like that low-rise site in Burlington that sold in hours? Yeah, did I tell you that? I wonder, where did I get that from? I think a fan of the show sent that to me. It's crazy.
So bottom line is, like, you can sell the site if you are pricing it at what the market thinks it's worth in any type of pre-construction situation. But nobody wants to take those chances. So I'm being a little bit argumentative. But bottom line is, there's
not the time. Like I remember when you get close to peak, zone sites are all the rage, because everybody just wants something that they can start charging fees for, right? And just go.
Launch.
And they know the comps and they know what's going on. But then, like now, this is the wrong time. Unless
you
you're
need
ready
like
to,
a 5-year timeline, like to feel comfortable.
I don't know. I guess it depends on the product. I mean, I
Sure, good
suppose
point.
there's
But you'd
products
love a 5-year timeline and that the numbers worked
and that the numbers
because
work.
you're going to be guaranteed,
3 years.
yeah, you're going to be guaranteed that you're going to have everything that you need in place.
But
what's the timeline on Thelma?
Well, I'm not glad that you asked me that because
Yeah.
I don't want to really talk about it on the show. But
Yeah.
let's just
is it
say
longer or shorter than you expected?
What happened in the last couple of days will increase the timeline by a little bit at the moment, depending on how this ends up playing out. But let's not talk about this right now because I don't want to get upset and I don't want to say something that could hurt me. But let's just say that the city is less impressive from my perspective than they were 3 days ago with regards to how they're doing things.
Yes,
but there's still a chance that the ship could be righted and that I'm talking out of my behind. But it's quite unfortunate.
I'll say no more.
It's quite unfortunate.
No more. So where are we now? Okay, so Polyevra, kudos to you. We are behind you. Now, this was something that was interesting because you on the construction side are telling me, and I believe you, that the cost of construction is coming down. Give us like some, I don't know.
Well, and I've been saying that for a while, and you have this this new report here. The what is it? The renovation construction cost
price index.
And this is kind of interesting, but this just shows again that stats are totally fucking wrong. Okay, generally stats are lagging. They're from they're always from previous periods, but most stats, if you actually follow stats, they get adjusted later as more information comes in. But these in particular. So if you're out there in the market and you kind of have a pulse on things, I mean, what spurs on a lot of the renovations is new purchases, right? People buy a house, they need to renovate it. And so that's happening less. But on the inverse of that, as if people that are sticking around more, they spend more on renovations because now they can't buy the house that they wanted to buy. Right. So from my perspective, stuff that I'm pricing is going down like crazy, right? If it's my personal house, guys that were charging 30 grand for something are now charging like 18 or 20 grand. I don't see prices going up, but this report shows very clearly that prices are still going up in most areas. Okay. But what's staggering about what this report shows is the amount. So it shows us from 2017 until I guess the second quarter of 2024. And the amount that the renovation costs in Ontario in particular, because this one is just insane. It's 91% increase over that period of time, which is about 7-something years, 8 years. That's almost a doubling of renovation costs in Ontario in 8 years. Why the fuck? What the fuck? Like,
how did we let it get out of control that much?
That is crazy. And this is not government fees, okay? This is labor. This is materials. This is scarcity of both. Believe me, because...
And it's the opportunity. So the reason prices haven't come down, this is my opinion on this, is because in new construction, you're going to be setting this out to bid with the biggest companies out there, and they're all getting it from the same sources and they're all doing the same things. And so as the cost of materials comes down, as cost of labor, all this kind of stuff changes, those bids are going to change in real time. But in the renovation world, it's a lot different. And if a guy was charging 100 grand for a basement last year, he's not going into a house this year and saying 90. He's saying, I charged 100 last year. The guy's paid 100. I'm going to go back in there and charge him 100 again. It's $100,000 for a basement. And it's much less sensitive in the renovation world than it would be on the new construction world. 100%.
Well, okay. Let me throw something into the soup. Okay. And we've talked about it before. And when things slow down in the new construction, all these guys that have jobs and think that they know everything about construction now, they become general contractors, right? And so now the pool of potential contractors grows extraordinarily, okay? And you got all these guys looking for work. But what you also have is some guys who have the ability to look forward and see, oh no, like sales have dried up recently. Soon we won't have enough work, or soon we're going to need more work. And so when you get that guy who has a business that's successful, but is going to soon need more work, mixed with a pool of growing incompetent idiots who can charge less because they're doing a bunch of the labor themselves with their 4 friends that just got picked up at the train station or the airport, or are getting paid less money because they're not legal, or whatever the hell the situation is. You end up with guys that have to make decisions like, I know that if I waited for the right opportunity that may or may not come, I could get this that I used to get, right? But to keep the wheels moving, TK, guys will take less money just to get another job, get another deposit in, keep the guys working, because as things slow down, when you have good guys, right, you don't want to ever lose these guys. Trust me. So you have to keep them busy, right? And so first, maybe you start doing stuff around the office, or you find jobs around your house to keep these guys busy. But eventually, you got to put them somewhere, right? Or what happens? They find work, because nobody sits around waiting for the boss to get them work for more than like 2-3 days, right? And if it happens like every couple weeks where you're waiting 2-3 days for the next job, what do? Right? Because you're used to making whatever, 70, 80 hours a week, 40 hours a week, whatever the hell you're used to. Now it's not there with this guy. So what happens? Miguel comes over and says, hey, Pedro, I got an opportunity for us. If you come with me, I would take care of you. I would take care of you so well. It would be so beautiful.
Illegal Mexican population in Canada.
That's right. That's right. Well, some form of illegal something here in Canada, which is everywhere. Okay. You want to go Albanian? I don't know if I can it'll
be another country, not Mexicans, but it'll be one of those other countries.
But there's Indian contractors now, and Albanian and Korean or South Korean or Russian, like holy Russians, right? Or Yugoslav. Like there's literally everything. And we haven't even really seen the slowdown in construction yet. In the high-rise sector, there's still 200 cranes out there. Right. So every day, a couple hundred guys get laid off and they need something to do. And I promise you, if all the pricing hasn't come down yet in the renovation market, it's coming down really soon, like really soon, because no starts. So like there always, when the market's going, there's somewhere to put these guys. Not only is there somewhere to put them, there's probably 3 places waiting desperately for them. Right. And this is a big difference. So although this is an interesting report, and it's probably a good thing to have tracked, it's total horseshit.
Okay, no problem. Let's go. We got 2 more, Darryl.
We didn't finish one. We didn't finish there was a good one when we were talking about things that the government was trying to
Ford government votes down bill aimed at speeding up office conversions, and Toronto Council to consider rental development incentives. These are 2 huge ones.
These are 2 huge ones.
Yeah. So let's quickly talk about the Ford government aimed at speeding up office conversions. So, I mean, there was a vote in the provincial legislature where I guess they had a bill 102, the Commercial to Residential Conversion Act 2024, was tabled by a Liberal MPP, so not a Conservative MPP. That probably was the issue. Well, the bottom line is there was changes of the Environmental Protection Act that would exempt changes to buildings use based on building height, and it would allow converting offices into residential to happen much quicker.
So the way it worked previously is that if a building was a certain height, there was no way that you could ever get the ability to convert it into residential. And we've talked about it a bunch of times. I mean, listen, it makes sense right now based on, I mean, you got the highest vacancy rate ever in history in
18.1% in Toronto.
Yeah. This mustache
crazy.
Is going
1
up
in 5.
Nose, driving me crazy. But okay, 18% vacancy, right? And you have a housing crisis, I guess, depending on what you decide you believe. But you definitely at some point are going to need more homes. But so they've targeted this as an easy, like this makes sense, right? They're all vacant, and so why don't we just open it up so people can turn them into condos? But most of them, if not like 90% of them will not even be possible to turn into condos for all kinds of construction related reasons, right? Or human mental health reasons. For example, if you have this, generally office buildings are much bigger, they're wider than deeper, like the floor plates of the floors are much larger. And this is because people don't care if you're sitting in a cubicle in the middle of the hall, right, in the middle of the building, and you barely get a glimmer of sunlight. But humans like real sunlight, and you don't want units that are so fucking deep, right? But it's the only way that these things work. And then you have to literally redo all the plumbing, all the electrical, and all the HVAC in the entire building, right? Mm-hmm. Chances are you got to replace all the windows. Like, there's so much to do. All you have is like a shell, right? And your shell generally sucks from an efficiency perspective for residential. So although they are trying to make a valiant effort here with something that in theory could bring on more housing quicker, it's not a dumb thing to have like not done either. Because you put a policy in place like this, and then some idiots come in and think that they can do it, and then you just create more of a mess. Like, it's a big mess. When you don't realize what you can do and you get into it, like, there's so many stupid people, and then these things might be cheap because they're like, nobody wants them as office buildings anymore, so the valuation's screwed up, so some dumb idiot's gonna do it, and it's all kinds of problems. This could be even harder than building a building on top of a building with people living in it still, right? Like, difficulty level to actually get done. But this one I can actually see why
I can
they would
see
vote
right
down.
now, because of the 40,000 units available right now in the condo market, this isn't actually something we need.
No,
like,
we need to figure out a way to get
if we had
those.
like limited supply and we were like, oh my gosh, there's no condos for sale right now, we don't have 50 months of inventory, we need to convert all the offices to housing right away. So it's interesting how we talk so much about a lack of housing, but when the market changes, we're all kind of just like looking around going,
there's a lot of housing.
So what I think is necessary is rental housing.
Housing.
The Toronto City Council is trying to create ways to be able to get more housing. Now, these guys know about as much about creating new housing as I know about how to change a transmission on a Porsche 911. All right. So, and just for people's, information, I am not mechanically inclined whatsoever. Yeah. Okay. So they're going to try to come up with their ideas, but literally every city program that they're working on right now for housing is not working. And if you look at Toronto Community Housing Corporation buildings, those are a mess. There is literally no city program right now for rental housing that has ever worked. Okay.
They had it and then they fucked it up. As soon as everybody was like, oh, this is in a good place now with this CMHC MLI.
That's federal, right? So this is just on the city side. So basically what they're saying is, hey, developers, if you create 20% of your building as a affordable unit, considered affordable based on their metrics, we are going to defer the development charges and give you a 15% tax break on property taxes, right? And so everyone's
deferring the development charges.
And so everyone's kind of just like, oh, great, this sounds like it's going to do something. But if you really ran the numbers at what that would do to their pro forma, it may actually hurt it even more. I don't know. I haven't ran it.
Who even knows what the land taxes are going to be, like the property tax?
And you're talking about 20% of the units being affordable, which based on the rents right now that a developer would use, Darryl, what's the price per square foot right now a developer would be using for a purpose-built rental in Toronto?
Everything is $5 a foot on
$5 a foot.
Yeah,
and I'll tell you right now, those affordable units aren't going to be $5 a foot. Okay, that's $1,000 unit, 5,000 square foot unit, $5,000 a month for people who are mathematically inclined. So think about that.
No, the affordable numbers are 500 square foot unit,
$2,500.
And they're based on 2016 census or some crazy old data.
Property tax?
No, the rental.
The rental. Okay.
For
property taxes
for it to be affordable, right?
Yeah.
it's okay. First of all, 20% of your revenue gets decimated and starts eating some of the other stuff because you start getting into below cost territory. Okay.
Yeah.
So now your expenses that are no different in those units are spread across those units and the rest of them, right?
Yeah.
And it just destroys things. But it does allow you to get another 5 years of amortization on your CMHC financing. And it does kind of tie into the big fucking mistake they made on that CMHC financing because they're trying to get this affordable housing out there. And instead of just pumping the market full of options for people and getting a bunch of choices out there, like we see right now, we're in a housing crisis. We got 40,000 condos on the market. Prices are going down because there's so much choice, yet we're still in a crisis. And when this stuff gets absorbed, we're fucked, apparently, is the way that the story goes, right? So they're on this mission to force the developers to create the affordable housing by ruining the rest of the development, right?
By not creating any housing.
And not
is really what it's going to be. That's what
housing.
it is. They don't understand a simple economic principle of supply and demand. They don't understand it. Doug Ford's the only one who understood it with the rent control. He was the only one who actually was saying, okay, guys, if we allow more people into the rental industry, more, what do they call them? Housing providers. Okay. It means that there's going to be more options for people. And he's been trying his hardest to do that. Right. But it seems like anybody who's sort of a little bit more, liberal or a little bit more socialist is always trying to come up with a way that is forcing capitalism to back away. And so that there's not going to be any actual creation of any units whatsoever. And they're saying, we're fighting for your rights. They don't understand. They don't understand. We need a full heap of housing to be built over the next 10 years for this problem to get solved. It won't be solved anytime soon.
No. And what's crazy is if you go down a layer and you see what's going on, like most of these applications that are in the city are from companies that are new or no one's ever heard of or not from Toronto. Like they're not the big developers with all the money and all the know-how. They're these new guys coming in with a plan to flip the zone site, right? Because no one in their right mind is going to let these companies build a 4, 5, 700 unit complex because there's Terrion involved and the Greater Toronto Home Builders Association, right? And so, like, do you see where I'm going with this? So, now, okay. So the new homes
and just so people understand, the big guys don't want to waste their breath doing all this legwork for the next few years, going nowhere because they've already got enough things to be working on.
No, the point is that they're experienced and they know how to do it and they're licensed to do it and they're ready to do it. And these other guys are here trying to take a little piece in the middle and get a zone site, flip it to somebody who's going to build it. But so what's going to happen is some of these new guys are in the rental market. You don't need that. You don't need Terrion. You don't need to be qualified. You just need to be able to financially show that you can build this rental building by hiring the right people, right? You don't need to sell anything. You don't need to warranty anything. And so what's going to happen is once they get the incentives to a place that makes some sense for people, you're going to get all of these guys who think they're real estate tycoons coming in and putting together
raising money for their social media.
Crazy money from wherever the fuck they got it from, but they're going to come in here and they're going to build shitty, horrible apartment buildings, right? So watch, mark my words. We're going to have this wave of garbage that gets built because the guys who can build, they've got their own stuff. Now you got all these other sites that were intended for somebody to build, right? And you don't have a market to sell into. You got a market to rent into where the qualifications and the experience is lower somehow.
And those investor returns are going to be, maybe not quite as promised.
Who the hell knows? Who the hell knows? I mean, who the heck? I see a big mess on the horizon. And this is what happens when you get a bunch of people that have nothing to do with business, have never been in business, have never built anything, have never zoned anything, have never done anything, but figure out a way to get voted into this thing, are making the decisions for all of us. And I see, look, if you're a developer, you see firsthand, it does not take a genius to figure out why the fuck we don't have enough housing and why it takes so goddamn long. The stuff that they pull is so dumb and so crazy, and there's so many people involved and so many layers that you could end up in a spot where it's like, we're okay with this, but we're still not going to allow it to go forward, right? Like, we're all fine with this. We love this, but it can't go forward, right? I was saying to who was I talking to the other day? I was bitching to somebody, and I was like, I just want to build these buildings. I just want to build these great, beautiful buildings for people to love and enjoy and live in. And there's all these forces that just stop you from being able to do it and make it so like it's not even fun and you don't even want to do it. It's like so ridiculously exhausting and taxing for no reason, right? Because Betty has a problem, right? Betty and Karen just have big fucking megaphones, right? And so now everybody has to suffer, right? Because Betty and Karen, they own 17 properties, right? They don't give a shit about everybody else. They just care about them. They're set, right? I don't care that there's so much inventory right now and that it appears that there's no demand in this market. We are going to hit such a crazy patch in 2026 or whenever the hell it is when we go, oh, nobody's building anything. Nobody's selling anything. Oh.
And then when they finally realize it, it's going to be like, oh, it's going to take us another 5 years to actually get this built. We got to make the changes now. So 5-10 years from now, we'll all be going backward, looking backwards and saying, look at all these buildings in my neighborhood, which is, maybe not what I wanted, but they're there and it's providing housing for people. And this is the only way we're going to get out of this. Darryl,
only way.
This show today, it keeps getting better and better. I'll be honest with you.
Keeps getting better?
It just keeps getting better and better and better. The stuff we're talking about, the content we're covering, the guests we've got, the new staff. We've got new people in charge of, editing the video, the mustaches, the suits, man.
Unbelievable. New surprise next week too, TK. Big surprise addition to the team.
Major surprise.
TK, where the fuck are you, TK?